Hey everyone, and welcome to What Goes Bump in the Night. This is episode 1 in our series, and today we'll be discussing the Wendigo. My name is Clayton, here with my co-hosts, Ryan and Joe. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good, man.
Not too bad myself.
It's pretty solid.
Anything exciting happening in your guys' lives?
Not really recently. Had a week off from my civilian job to do some training and stuff, but other than that, pretty solid.
I got fired from my job,
Right.
and then I've just been sleeping like a homeless man for a few weeks now. It's been rough.
What'd you
good.
do?
Okay,
What'd you
listen.
do?
Okay, so this is genuine. I don't actually know what I did. I showed up every day. I did my job. I didn't. They took me off the schedule for they had me on the schedule for the next 2 weeks. I was like, okay, cool. And then I checked back, and I was completely wiped off the schedule. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And so I went in, and I went to my manager. I went in street clothes, so I looked real odd just walking into the back of a Walmart, which no one stopped me. Not a single person stopped me, which is concerning. But I walked all the way back there.
So,
I mean, yeah, but I walked all the way back in there, and I was like, oh, hey, insert name, because I don't think I'm allowed to say their name. Why am I taking off the schedule? And she was like, oh, yeah, I had to fire all my temps. And I was like, excuse me? And she was like, yeah, corporate said we had to get rid of every one of you. You can come back and try to work here again in 2 months. And I was like, you weren't going to tell me? She was like, I was going to call you guys Monday. Keep in mind, she took me off the schedule on a Tuesday. So she was going to wait essentially a week before calling anyone and telling them, hey, don't come in anymore. We don't need you.
that sounds like not a vibe,
Dang.
bro. It's big
It was
rough.
awful.
That's
It's big rough.
roller coaster of a story there, so that's
Sad.
solid. So, what kind of stuff did you guys find out about a Wendigo? Let's just jump right on into this. Any kind of lore? Anybody know any lore for the Wendigo? I know.
I'm about to
some
say,
lore.
yeah,
want
you
me
can
to
go ahead
go
and
with
start
that?
on the lore that you got, bud.
Alright, so the Wendigo basically was once a hunter, and he got lost in the woods during a brutally cold winter. And this man obviously got hungry after a day or two of him not being able to, eat. So he resorted to cannibalism with the people that was around him who died at the time. So that's how the story's basically going, is a man just eats another person because he's starving. And after feasting on another person, he'll transform into a crazed man-beast that the Algonquin tribe actually used to call a Wendigo. And they roam the forest for more people to eat. Now, there's not just the Wendigo, isn't just the only name for this. There's other names that also are like the Wendigo. So there's the Wendigo with the I, and then there's an E. And then there's the Witigo, the Witico, and the Wetigo. And all of them roughly translate into the evil spirit that devours mankind.
I thought it was interesting because the lore behind it, because you're talking about how it transforms into this giant man beast. It's described in so many different ways throughout the areas. For example, some of it describe it as this the creature, like how they show it in the video game Until Dawn, where it's just this giant gray, almost vampire looking creature. But there's drawings of it where it has the head of a deer with its rib cage exposed. And what I saw, it looked like it had wolf-like legs, it was furry gray legs, but arms that were the length of the entire body, if not longer, that held them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen things like that.
Yeah, so
too.
they have long limbs that have paws at the end, and on the paws they each have foot-long for the paws themselves, they all have foot-long talons on the end. So they are really strong, scary monsters.
What were you saying, Joe?
Oh yeah, I've seen things like that too, how they from what I gathered from the research that I did, it was a couple different things. Most of one of them was how you were saying, Ryan, about how they are in Until Dawn, the small grayish looking things that kind of look like rabid dogs that are really skinny, got the bone sticking out of them, or looks like they got their bone sticking out, and they're just all on all fours and stuff like that. But every other picture that I've ever seen of like Wendigo and stuff like that is similar to like the tall thing with like the deer head and the antlers and the really long limbs and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I think
that's,
it
like, the
really
image
just
all over
depends
Google.
on like where you're at, because these things are from the northern forests, from Nova Scotia to to the rest of eastern Canada, to the Great Lakes region of both Canada and U.S., like Minnesota, Michigan, all that. So
Right.
it might very well be dependent on like where at the stories are coming from, because like literally any other thing, like the description of the beast would always center around the region. You know what I mean? And who's to say
Yeah.
there aren't like different kinds of Wendigo per se? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I was gonna say, because in the
cousins and
research,
shit, such.
I was gonna say, yeah, like in the research, whenever I know me and Clayton first started looking it up, we saw that it was mostly like the Algonquin Indian tribe. And that's like a big portion of where the belief comes from. Is like it's the tribe, the Native American tribe that was located roughly in the Quebec, eastern Canada, northern U.S. area. But they all, even though they were all like kind of in the same tribe, they all had very different like ideas of what it was like, what it looked like, and like the description. And like how Clayton was saying, they all had different names also. And I thought that was like really interesting because like they all have the same idea for the same creature though, like how its name comes to devourer of mankind.
So something else that's really cool that Joe brought up about like how they how there's just possibly the thing of there being more than just the actual Wendigo, and like how each one could be somewhere else. There's another tribe called the Athabascan people, and they're from the northwest Pacific coast. They believe in the Wichuge. That's how you pronounce it. And they believe in this being like another Wendigo-based monster. That's cannibalistic, but it wasn't as much as an insane man just trying to eat somebody who became a Wendigo. They see the Wichuge as a man who was so enlightened with ancestral insights that he became a cannibalistic monster, and it's more not like in a bad light. Like, obviously I'm not saying like cannibalism's good in any way, but these people seen this as not as much as a monster of like evil as a monster of like higher like intelligence, I guess you could say, more knowledge.
Yeah, I was about to say, because that's what my notes say too, is that it wasn't so much as an insane monstrous cannibal, but as a being that had been enlightened by ancestral insight. It's crazy how different it is between the tribes. That like they saw it, the Algonquin tribes saw it as like this beast, we need to keep it away. And I actually have it in my notes how they were the only tribe that did this, the Algonquin ones, because like the Athabascan didn't believe he was a terrible beast, but they did a ceremonial satirical dance. Basically, it was called the Wendigo Kuzamoan, and it was a satirical dance done around times of famine in the Algonquin tribes, and it was used to remind people not to be greedy. And the ritual was performed wearing a mask and dancing backwards while drums played, and it was supposed to be seen as a sign to fend off the
Wendigo.
Wendigo. Why do I keep wanting to call it the Wendigo? But to fend off the Wendigo.
So, to give you guys more of a description of what a Wendigo like is, there's different versions of the Wendigo legends out there that say different things about his speed and agility. While some of them claim he's unusually fast and can endure walking for long periods of time, even in the harshest of winter conditions, others say that he walks more in a haggard manner, as if he's like falling apart, like he's decomposing. But more of them say that he relies on fast speed, and he has superhuman strength. But even if he doesn't have the speed's not what's most
important.
Speed is not what is most important for him. He doesn't have to rely on outrunning somebody or capturing them. his main tool for hunting, actually, is his ability to, he has a human voice mimicry. Like, he can mimic people's voices, like, perfectly. You'll be walking in the forest and you think you'll hear somebody you know, like, talking or screaming next to you. So you'll go to try to find them. And he uses this to actually lure people in and draw them away from the other people, like, in a campsite or something. And when they're alone, that's when he'll attack. That's when he strikes them down.
Hey.
There's also things that say he has supernatural, like, endurance, so he's able to regenerate himself after being shot or stabbed. And that they have incredible hearing and are said to be able to hear a panicked heartbeat from over miles away. What were you saying, Joe? I'm
cool.
sorry.
So, actually, on that, from both my research and from watching, like, pop culture references and stuff, the best thing that I've seen that actually represents that fairly well is actually the video game Until Dawn. Because I never played it myself, but I watched friends play it, and I watched walkthroughs and stuff.
I've played it. It's crazy with how great that is.
Yeah, because it shows you the speed they have, the endurance. It freaking has the mimicry thing. I remember at one point in time, the two characters are in a cabin, and they hear a scream, and they go out and they look for it and stuff like that, what's going on, you know? And then it's like the back shot of, you know how like some movies and stuff will like show the monster's point of view or whatever, how it's like freaking everything's nulled and like it intensifies the people's talk, you know what I mean? So it like enhances, showing the freaking enhanced senses of the Wendigo, you know. And then even of the strength thing, like from what I gathered from some of my research, is like one of the biggest things they have, including with their speed and their endurance, is the superhuman strength. Like the stuff that I found says that it's the limit of their strength is actually completely unknown. But depending on who you ask, some of them say that it's strong enough to go head to head with even the Hulk, you know. So,
which is crazy to think about.
Bad. It's crazy, yeah. But
almost a slip up there, Chief.
Catching myself, but it's absolutely wild to think that little thing that's like all skin and bones looking can go head to head with the freaking Hulk, you know. But because, like, the spirit that's possessing it and stuff like that, even with any other, like, possession of a spirit, you know, you can see things like that in, like, The Exorcist and stuff like that. If you're possessed by a spirit, you're obviously going to get, like, enhanced nonsense, like strength and stuff like that. But because of the nature of the Wendigo, of being greed and, like, just take, it has to have those attributes, those characteristics to fulfill its goals or its outputs, you know? So it's really wild that those things are there for that.
And I like that you brought up the greed, because historically the Wendigo is actually associated with cannibalism, murder, and insatisfiable greed and other cultural taboos against
that's why
behaviors.
It's like, even if it's like the cannibalism, it's like when they eat, they never get not hungry. They're never full. So they're constantly eating, constantly. It's because the greed of it. It's like, yeah, I have this, but it's not nearly enough. So you have to keep going, like always. So that also feeds into that.
So we also got into the description of the Wendigo a little bit at the beginning, with the long limbs and stuff, with the paws and talons, how its skin stretched and stuff. I remember you guys talking about that. But nobody really said the height of the Wendigo, I don't think.
mentioned how they're, like, ridiculously tall. I didn't mention the numbers, though.
The numbers are around 7 to 15 feet tall, and the reason these vary so much is because of the fact that whenever they eat somebody, they only grow more hungry. So every time a Wendigo eats somebody, they don't ever get a fulfillment feeling from it. They're never fulfilled. The hunger grows at them and gnaws at their stomach even more. And what stories say is when they eat somebody, instead of growing outward like fat, they just grow taller. And eventually, they're going to get so tall that it's where you start seeing more of the bones and stuff protruding out, because they're skinny.
I thought it was wild also because we haven't gotten into it yet, because we've been really focusing on like the attributes and the appearance of the Wendigo that we have yet to get to talk about its weaknesses. And its weaknesses vary so much because they all contradict each other.
Like, I got freaking... The stuff that I got is, like, some of them say that freaking you can take one down with, like, conventional weapons. Like, once again, Until Dawn. I'm pretty sure they nailed a couple of them with a shotgun. You know?
Yeah.
You can freaking beat it with a club. Or other ones say that wouldn't work, and you gotta, like, Scooby-Doo it. Like, capture it. The wildest one that I've gathered is, like, one of them is, like, saying the Scooby-Doo nonsense was, like... The high shaman of the Algonquin tribe has to, like, do a specific spell and a ceremony to, like, banish the spirit from the individual, you know, like a exorcism almost. But the wildest one that I've come across was they have to capture it, cut its heart out, and throw it into a fire.
Okay, so I also have that.
See,
but mine says...
I have a really crazy one.
Is it the one that... The
about,
church?
Yes, the silver bullets or silver
weapon. You gotta use a silver
yeah.
weapon to carve it out, and then you have to bury its heart in a church cemetery, which is just wild.
That is wild, especially given the fact that Algonquin, like Native American individuals, I, as far as I'm aware, anyway, wouldn't have had access to any variety of any silver, like in that sense. When these indigo,
and
not to mention a church,
you wouldn't really
either.
think of them as being a church.
Exactly,
yeah
exactly. A church
those
cemetery.
would have to happen after
that seems
settled.
Like a Christian.
We got settled, like
that was a
how I was saying,
seems
like
one
of the accounts of one of the accounts of the Wendigo is from a Jesuit missionary in the 17th century in Quebec, you know, and he wrote back to Paris this monster thing that was attacking him, you know, so it would have to be after a period like that because beforehand. Native Americans didn't have that nonsense. They didn't have churches like that.
Yeah.
They didn't have any variety of silver weapons, you know. So that would have to be, which is wild to think about because that would mean that not only do these myths and this beast was around before, like for this long period of time, but it was still attacking individuals after like large amount of people settled and freaking things have changed and it was still here. So that kind of proves that it's not like solely them, but like it reaches around, you know.
I have another one on here also. I don't know if I'm pretty sure Clayton has this too. Do you have the silver-plated axe one too?
Yep, I wanted to get into that because I was going to just
vampire hunter nonsense.
So just to yes,
it's crazy.
So continuing on with everything that Ryan had said before about cutting out their heart, this is literally from the legend itself. The trick is to employ silver bullets or pure silver blade or stake and strike right through the Wendigo's heart. It's widely believed that a silver-covered steel blade could work also if you're in a pinch. Upon wounding the Wendigo's heart, you must take care to shatter it into pieces, then lock the shattered heart in a silver box and bury it in a church cemetery. Not one to seek a simple end, the rest of the Wendigo must be dismembered with a silver-plated axe so you can salt and burn the body and then scatter its ashes in the wind. Or, as an option, bury the pieces in a remote location.
You know how crazy that is?
That sounds like some druid stuff, man.
Yeah, it's really out there. And, like, to think, if you had an issue like this, like your neighbor, like, back in those times, had succumbed to Wendigo, you have to go through a whole process to even get rid of this, like, nightmare creature. And then I think it got even crazier whenever, like, we started getting cases of Wendigo psychosis, which I thought was, like, one of the most interesting things about this, is there was reports of people eating other people, and they were blaming it fully on Wendigo psychosis. Do you guys have anything about that? Because I have a whole, like,
the only thing that I could think about that would be, like, it was like a horror movie, so it was more like the Wendigo itself. But the only thing that I remember from this was this dude in like Wyoming or something like that went to the mountains of his ranch, got lost in there for like a week, and he finally came back and he was all frostbitten and stuff like that, and he was trying to talk to his wife, and she told him to like cook up some steak, and he just grabbed the steak up and started eating it like raw, and she's like, "Are you good?" And he's like, "Yeah, this is great," and just starts gnawing on this raw steak. And it went like that, and they have this Native American dude on, and he was like watching him. He's like, "I don't know what's going on with that nonsense, but it seems like some Wendigo." And she's like, "What?" And like she tried to explain it to, and he's like, "Oh, well, it's a bad spirit and stuff like that." And he's just chomping on raw meat. And at one point in time, he like tries to take a chunk out of her arm, and then it's a whole thing. I don't know what movie it was, but it was wild.
That's
and man,
crazy. Yeah.
So that sounds pretty good. I have a story, actually, since we're going to get into Wendigo psychosis. I actually have only one story. But I know,
okay.
No, not me personally.
Not me personally, but, you know.
Not me I know a guy.
I know a guy.
As far as I know, I don't know anybody who's tried to eat somebody. Good. So the story... the story is, one of the most infamous cases of, Wendigo psychosis is, Swift Runner. And this is back in 1878. He was a Plains Cree trapper from Alberta. He was also a trader in the with the Hudson's Bay Company, and he was married and the father of 6 children. In 1875, he served as a guide for the Northwest Mounted Police, but during the winter of 1878 to 1879, Swift Runner and his family were starving, along with numerous other Cree families. His eldest son died of starvation, and at some point, Swift Runner decided to succumb to Wendigo psychosis. That's when it first started happening to him. Now, right here is where I know that some stories get mixed up. It says, though emergency food supplies were available at Hudson Bay Company Post some 25 miles away, some stories say it's actually as close as 5 miles away. But he didn't attempt to travel there. Instead, he decided to kill the rest of his family, his wife and the other 5 children, and he ate them. And he eventually confessed to these crimes afterwards, and he claimed to be possessed by a Wendigo spirit at the time of the murders. He was executed by the authorities of
Fort Saskatchewan.
Yeah. And there's actually a lot of other stories. It said that there was a lot of other stories about these spirits that were possessing people in communities stretching from northern Quebec to the Rockies, and many of them were actually similar to Swift Runner.
Actually, on that,
but I haven't found
sorry to cut you off there, but on that, the only one that I can think of, and they never boiled it down to like Wendigo psychosis, but if you really look at all the freaking aspects of the whole thing, it could be considered that. But the Donner Party was like in the 1800s, some point in time, were trying to go.
Not yet.
Well, I mean, this is in it, so.
I guess.
So they were like going out west, like California or some nonsense, and they got stuck in the Rocky Mountains, like Clayton said, and they ran out of provisions and stuff like that, and one of the dudes snapped and just started like mowing down on his offspring and his wife.
See, the only other story I have like the cases, like because like in the 1960s there was 70 reported cases, which is crazy.
The 70s was a wild
we had
time,
documentation. Though. Yeah, but like you know how they handled all of these? They handled them by giving them medication in the group of benzodiazepine and antipsychotic agents, both first and second generations. So basically, people just started trying to eat people and saying that they were possessed by a spirit, and they were like, we're just going to give you some real high-grade drugs and call it a day.
Sounds about right.
The other one I have is, it's another well-known case of Wendigo psychosis, was that Jack Fiddler, an OG Cree chief and medicine man, known for his powers of defeating Wendigos. In some cases, this entailed killing people with Wendigo psychosis, and as a result, in 1907, Fiddler and his brother were arrested by Canadian authorities for homicide. Jack committed suicide, and his brother Joseph was tried and sentenced to life in prison, and he was ultimately granted a pardon, but died 3 days later in jail before receiving the news of the pardon.
That must suck.
Like, it's upsetting.
I mean, it's upsetting for him, granted, but probably not for
the families of the people he murdered.
Yes, the families would definitely not have minded
unless
that.
dudes
I wouldn't
ate
think.
them, then they kind of gonna say nothing.
I was about to say, if a man murdered a family member of mine because my family member said they felt like eating people, and then I found out it was just he just wanted to eat people and kill people, I'd be like, hey, we should probably let that guy go to prison like for a good long time.
That's fair.
Yeah. It's really crazy because the Wendigo psychosis thing, there are so many medical fields that denounce it. They're like, no, it's just people being crazy. It's not a real thing. But the ones that say it is real believe that it's from a lack in group of vitamin B, and it starts with anorexia and soon develops into insomnia, panic attacks, and fear. before the full cannibalism thing.
But the thing is with that would be like if that's a real okay, so if Wendigo psychosis was really a thing, like they're saying, like some people are denouncing it and stuff, wouldn't you think that would have overcome some of the individuals in like concentration camps? Because they got starved.
Yeah.
They got freaking starved, and there's no food. But holy shit, there was a lot of people. Don't you think that would have affected them too if that was really such a big thing, or would that be more of one of those things that's kind of like a placebo? You know what I mean? Like you undergo it because you've heard of it. You know what I mean? So you're like, maybe this is what's going on, and you can use that for a reasoning. Because the only cases that I've ever come across, even in the research and stuff, were only here in America. So if it was truly a mindset type of deal, it'd be the same thing like Stockholm syndrome. You know, exactly. It'd be more widespread.
Well, I feel like you could argue the fact that the only reason it happened in America is because the Algonquin tribe is primarily based in
Canada.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Canada and Northern
that's
America.
What I'm saying is like, so if it was a psychosis, like an actual mental thing, it would be everywhere. Same thing with like I was saying, Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome was
like
exactly Stockholm syndrome was in Sweden because these individuals like took over a bank or a train station or whatever, and then the hostages were like, "Oh, we love you" and stuff like that, and like buddied up with their freaking.
Don't kill these people; they're good.
Yeah, exactly. And that's literally everywhere. That can happen anywhere. You know, so it would be the same situation.
It's in comics and TV shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It'd be the same situation.
Because with mass hysteria, it's like
that.
Yeah,
like, so like if it's just here,
people being crazy.
Yeah, so like freaking if it's just here, then it could be just like a placebo, and that's why people are denouncing it.
But what's the difference between cannibalism and Wendigo psychosis? That's where you got to draw the line out with something like
Wendigo
this.
psychosis leads to cannibalism.
Yeah, you could make the argument that you would get Wendigo psychosis before cannibalism. And cannibalism, you could just say people just decide to eat people.
Because I mean, Ed Gein, he freaking ate people and didn't say anything about freaking Wendigo psychosis. He just decided to have some spicy chili.
I hate you,
Joe. Okay.
I don't know about you guys though. I know we covered a lot so far, but we probably should get ready to wrap it up a little bit because
we're getting on the 30-minute mark. This is a pretty solid one, I thought.
Oh wow.
I think this
job,
turned out pretty good. I hope people listen all the way to the 30-minute mark.
I mean, if they do, right on.
Yeah, man. It was. I think we covered as much as we could. Is there anything else we didn't cover that we could like try to keep in as short as possible? You know what I mean?
Okay, I can cover something real quick. There are people who still believe that the Wendigo, like an actual Wendigo monster, still roams the woods of the prairies of northern Minnesota and Canada, Kenora, Ontario, Canada, and has been given... Ontario, Canada, my bad, has been given the title of Wendigo capital of the world.
That is terrifying.
Sightings of the creature have actually, in that area, have continued well into the 2000s.
Man, I'm thankful I live in the South, then. Alright, Clayton, you said the sightings, is there anything else? Or you guys think we did pretty solid?
I think we could end it right there. I'd like to thank everybody who decided to tune in. Hopefully you made it this far. If you liked our podcast, let us know. We do plan on continuing. Just to give everybody a heads up of what the next episode might possibly be over. What kind of mythology is it from?
It's Spanish
story?
Mythology, and it's a Spanish ghost story.
Okay. There we go. That's enough. We don't want to give it away, but we do.
Just yet.
But that's what we got planned up for next week, and we already have a whole list of ideas for a whole.
1, I believe.
Yeah, all the way up until January.
And some of season 2, actually.
Oh, yeah, we do, don't we?
Yeah, let's say we got, yeah. I don't want to give away anything yet, just in case people are very interested. But if you listened all the way to the 31-minute mark, geez, thank you.
Heck yeah, man. Appreciate you sticking with us.
Genuinely, yeah. But I think that's going to be it for us.
Yep.
All right, see you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, I just want to say thank you for watching our very first episode of What Goes Bump in the Night. If you liked the video, leave us a like. If you want to watch more of our content, go ahead and subscribe. And if you feel like staying up to date on everything What Goes Bump in the Night, go ahead and follow us on our social medias, which I will link in the bio. Thank you.